up, knife freaks, sharpness geeks, and purveyors of static goodness? Welcome to the Knife Freak Show. My name is Jonathan McNees, and joined here by my co-host, Mr. Chase Boatright.
Howdy, guys.
We're glad to have you guys back with us. We're going to try round 2 of this whole podcasting thing. Feel like we got some pretty good feedback on the first go around, so kind of hated listening to myself talk and all the little glitches that I had. But what'd you think about it, Chase?
Sort of the same thing. I hated listening to myself talk and doing the editing and hearing myself 100 times, but you know, it was good. I had some good positive feedback from a few people, so felt good about it.
I feel like we had pretty good feedback, and I was expecting like 3 views or something. So like I don't know how many we're at now, but it was last time I looked, it was definitely more than I expected. So
yeah, it was more than 3.
We'll take it.
Yeah,
got to put our time in here and earn our stripes on the podcasting scene here. So
yeah, I mean that's what we're here to do. Build it
that's
up
right,
brick by brick. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So we thought we're going to try to kind of start implementing some somewhat regular segments. They may change up from time to time, just depending on what subjects we have to talk about from that particular week. But one of the things that we wanted to do was to do kind of like a current events in the knife industry kind of deal. What's in the news, or what's in the sometimes literally the news, and sometimes just what's going on social media, that kind of stuff. So this week we actually happened to have something that was literally in the news. So we're going to let Chase read those headlines to you, and let's talk about them for just a little bit.
So from Syracuse.com, Crucible warns it could close in months, eliminating 158 jobs. And that's Crucible Industries, the supplier of all the CPM steels and, even a few others that, are very prolific in the knife industry as, we know it. So
Magna Cut, no.
Yeah. Magna
Cut. That's where everybody's really freaking out. The Magna Cut.
Yeah.
So, did you see the response by Niagara to this?
Yeah. Which is interesting to me because I like a lot of Carpenter steels, and as far as I know, Latrobe does good stuff, and could be interesting to get other steel offerings beyond just Crucible. But again, I don't want Crucible to leave or anything like that.
Well, did I understand it wrong? And so, guys, what we're talking about here, we probably should have read that headline too. That there was a post or a tweet or whatever put out by Niagara Specialty Metals, which supplies most, if not all, of the Magna Cut. Yeah, it may have been a post on there. I saw it, so where somebody reposted it, and they were talking about that they were working with other mills essentially. But my understanding was they were going to have other mills actually making the CPM products, at least Magna Cut, because they were talking something about the recipe, like using the same recipe, the same.
Well, they may be able to use the same recipe, but I don't think they could use the same name. Unless
maybe not.
Laren owns that trademark and not.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Who owns the actual? Yeah, but, I'm not sure who owns.
Carpenter has 204P, which is essentially 20CV, which is essentially M390. And,
right.
Like RWL 34, I know that's not the same thing, but like RWL 34 by Damasteel is 154 CM or CPM 154.
Right.
There's other steels that are the same formula, but yeah, I don't know if they're going to be using the same formulas or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That was the way I interpreted the post, but I may have completely interpreted it wrong.
Okay.
It kind of seemed to me like maybe they had the rights to it, or maybe Laren has the rights to it, and they were going to. But now I'm totally just kind of guessing here.
Yeah. So no, I missed that part. We've placed orders with Era Steel, Carpenter Technologies, Elwood Quality Steels, and Universal Stainless, who will provide the same high-quality products with the exact same chemistries. So, yeah, I've missed that part.
Well, but that does kind of leave it open to what you said, though, that they may be the exact same steels with the exact same chemistries, but not the same name.
Yeah.
So
that's, been happening before in the knife industry.
Yeah.
So.
Which, if it gets to the point, if they do close, which they also said that they're trying to stay open, they apparently have filed Chapter 11 before some years back. So this is not the first time. something like that. Yeah, it's been several years ago from what I remember. So it's seems to be an ongoing problem as far as their financial woes. So,
Yeah.
which kind of surprises me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, in a plant that's 158 people, that's a pretty big plant. But like, I almost kind of would have thought the demand for MagnaCut alone in the knife industry would be enough to, like, I almost feel like we're using enough MagnaCut to keep 158 people working.
Well,
Like,
I mean, from what I understand, like Crucible, like deals a lot with like the automotive industry and the aerospace industry as well. I don't even know if like the
yeah,
knife industry is like a drop in the bucket for their actual
yeah, that's
annual
kind of what I was
sales.
thinking. But then that was kind of when I was surprised when the plant was only 158 people. 'Cause like I said, I don't
Yeah,
know how many people it takes to produce, a roll of steel or whatever. So I mean, that
yeah.
may be something that 5 people can do. I'm totally ignorant on what it takes, but
I have no
it
idea.
seemed to me a kind of a low number to be.
Mhm.
Like I said, that was my first thought too. Well, we're a small part of their business, but if you're only employing 158 people, like I said, I mean, I feel like the knife industry alone, just in MagnaCut, would probably be using enough product to keep 158 people busy, but
I would
maybe
think,
not.
but
Again, I
yeah,
know nothing about running a mill, so
no clue. But yeah, I mean,
so
I was reading back in the history of Crucible, and like apparently during the '80s they had like 1,400, I think, employees or something like
oh
that.
wow,
And then they downsized to like 600, and then whenever they got bought out, they downsized again.
hmm,
And I may not be getting the timelines right. I read this like a week
right,
ago, but yeah. So I mean, apparently it's become a lot more automated, as has everything else,
sure,
and a lot of you know sort of jobs have been eliminated, but
right, and that may explain what I was talking about. Like I said, with automation, it may take, you know, 5 people may be able to produce enough MagnaCut for the entire knife industry.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
So that's it's very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out
yeah.
because it sounds like at the very least we'll have an alternative to switch to, even if it's not technically named MagnaCut. And I mean, if it gets to the point that MagnaCut's not available, I don't really foresee it being you know, I think people will make the switch and that'll just be.
Yeah,
We'll look back on it down the road and be like, you remember when this was called MagnaCut? Like,
yeah, yeah. I
I don't
mean,
think it's going to be maybe a temporary thing, maybe a temporary hitch in the process here and may have to use some other steels, maybe some of the carpenter steels, like you said, for a little bit. But
yeah.
in the meantime, I don't think it's going to be like just a major long term problem. And they may
And
even end up staying open.
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that's what ends up happening, is they end up finding a buyer or something like that, where the mill can stay open and continue to produce the alloys that they produce. Because I mean, not just MagnaCut, but I mean, they've got all their stainless models from 110 and S110 and S90 and
Yep.
S125, and then they've got all their tool steels that crew wear and 3V and 4V and
Yep.
all those things that are like looking at a lot of. I mean, I haven't looked at like the totality of everybody's you know steel catalog, but a lot of the carpenter steels that I'm familiar with, there's not a lot of those like high impact, high edge retention tool steels
Right.
that I saw. But I mean, I don't
Right.
know. I could be wrong there.
Yeah.
But
May not be as many of those kind of designer steels that are so popular right now. So
yeah, I mean, and they may be just under different, different names. I know 3V's got a long history and stuff like that, and it's sort of changed hands and all that. But
right.
I don't know. So
It's going to be interesting, and if it does actually affect the supply of some of the super steels, then we could even end up seeing kind of a little bit of a shift in the market as far as people having to learn to love some other stuff.
yeah,
They may have to, and honestly, I mean, MagnaCut is great. I love MagnaCut, but there are a lot of other really good steels out there, and like I think a lot of people are probably missing out on some other good steels with some really good qualities just because you know they've heard the hype about MagnaCut. Not that it's not justified, but just there's still a lot of other really good steels out there, and there's
yeah.
no one steel that's perfect for every situation. So
No,
you know,
the one thing I got excited about seeing Carpenter's name, and I don't even know if this is true, but I just want XHP to come back because I love XHP,
yeah,
and I know you're with me on
yeah,
that. Like
yep. I like
that was,
XHP myself.
I think Did we do the original Mac 2s in XHP, or did we try to? And
We
we
did
couldn't
some. I
get
think it was the original ones. I think we did XHP, and then we
Then we had to switch to
switched to
20 CV.
20V. Either that or we did 20V, 20CV, and then shifted and did a run in XHP. I can't remember which way
I think it was the
that went.
first way around, because I think you wanted to do XHP, and I was all about it. I love XHP.
Yeah,
And I think the first 200 or so were XHP, and then after
that
that,
sounds right. That
but
sounds right. I think we actually had one in here not long ago for some spa work or some kind of repair work that was XHP. So
I know
I know
mine's
for a fact
XHP.
we did some in XHP, but
Yeah,
so yeah, I'm a fan of it. It's a good steel. There's lots of other good steels out there too. It's just depends on where you put your, you know, what you put the most importance on for what you're using the knife for. You know, for some
yeah,
people the edge retention, some people it's corrosion resistance. It's just a matter of, you know, kind of what's more important to you.
yeah.
MagnaCut has managed to be the best of all worlds as much as anything has in recent history. So,
Hmm.
so
For sure.
well,
Well,
we'll see what happens.
yeah, yeah.
It could
Hopefully it
have
goes
a.
well for us, and we'll
I
just
do too.
like I said,
I feel like, I mean, like I said, it may take some people getting used to, you know,
yeah,
maybe having to open their eyes to some different steels, whatever. But it was inevitable that was going to happen anyway. I mean, every single newest, greatest steel that's come out, something else has always come along and gotten popular, you know, and kind of
yeah,
replaced it. So I don't, I don't think that it's MagnaCut's time yet, unless it's forced out of
yeah,
existence. Then, other than that, I don't think that it's run its course. But it's inevitable that something else is going to come along anyway. So everything, the business, the industry will still march forward.
definitely.
So,
But
but it is sad. It's like I said, I've been using Crucible steels. That's the main steels I've used, other than like the simple one I was using, like 1095 and stuff. But on
yeah,
all the stainless steels that I've used, that's the vast majority of what I used has been Crucible steels. So
yeah. I
it's
mean,
kind of weird to think about.
they're a titan of the cutlery industry. I mean, literally, they are the gold standard. Where I mean, as
Right.
far as companies go for knife steel, I mean, but on the sort of on our end of it, like you were talking about, I mean, that's going to be interesting, and I think that could kind of lead into what you're wanting to talk about that we discussed earlier about like sort of the business practices and stuff like that, how that would change on our end,
Yep.
and stuff like that.
That's right. Yeah. So we mentioned that one of the other segments that we want to try to throw in regularly, if not every show, is not just talking about the actual knives themselves, but the business side of it. That part intrigues me almost as much as the actual knives do. So that, which it kind of needs to, considering that that's how I make my living. So it's it's important to understand and try to understand and have some sort of proficiency at the business side of things. So like you said, that definitely plays into it, and being flexible on that is just going to have to be the name of the game, and
Yeah,
trying to see which way the wind is blowing is what the next, you know, popular steel is going to be. Or like I said, it may be a MagnaCut's hard to get for a couple of months, and then we're right
yeah,
back to maybe with a different name or whatever, or maybe the same name, just a different company making it. So
yeah,
we'll see how it plays out. But we did have on the for the business section today, just kind of segue into that, we I wanted to briefly mention about Christmas time. So some of you may understand this. Those of you that are other like knife makers or dealers, if you happen to listen to this, probably or for sure understand this. But a common misconception that I see is people thinking that, oh yeah, I guess you guys are just booming and busy at Christmas, right? I guess y'all are selling a lot of Christmas knives, and it's like, no, not really. Like now, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're still selling knives. We're still sending stuff to dealers, but we don't get a huge Christmas rush the way, you know, most other retailers do, which is, from what I've talked to from my dealers and everybody else, that's pretty common. So it's the it's it comes from it's different price points. So like say $50 Kershaws, they probably sell a crap ton of knives at Christmas time, right? Or you know, so even some of the
yeah,
lower price, just whatever brands that are, you know, say $100 and under.
yeah,
But I imagine they probably do sell a lot of. product at Christmas time, they probably actually have an increase in sales. But for people like us that are selling on the custom world, the higher end production stuff, the vast majority of our customers are mostly men, but men and women that during the year they're spending their extra cash on their own hobby, and then when it comes Christmas time, that extra cash has to go to spend money on the family and stuff. So that extra, being able to buy the cool new knife that I want kind of goes out the window for the month of December, basically, and then people start to catch up a little bit about mid-January. It seems like everything starts to kind of kick back off a little bit. Then income tax money starts coming in mid-January to February. So, but is that you've experienced that too, and since you've
for
been
sure.
doing?
I mean, while working for you and for myself, like there's always a little bit of a. Last December was the only exception for me. For some reason, it was better than most, but I don't know
Good.
why. Yeah, I'm not complaining, but this December it's kind of returned to form, and just as a knife guy myself, I don't. I'm not going out and buying myself a new knife right now. I'm not, that money's allocated for other things. It's
Right.
allocated for my
That's
daughter,
right.
for my wife, for my mom, whatever else. Like,
Yep.
there's other things besides just my hobby, things that make me feel good that I like. Do I need
Right.
another knife? Probably not, but I like them. So
Blasphemy. You
blasphemy.
always need another knife.
I mean, I agree. I agree 100%.
But
Um,
not if it means not being able to take care of your family. So I will put that caveat in there.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's exactly what's going on. It's simple to think about and it's simple to say, and all
Yeah.
that, but like people don't really think about it in that way. Because I mean, I've had a lot of people, local people that know I make knives, like they're like, oh, I want to get my father, father-in-law a knife for Christmas, and I'm like, okay, what
Yeah.
do you want? And they're like, a hunting knife. I'm like, okay, this is what I make. Here's the price, and they're like, oh, okay. Because I
Yeah.
mean, most people aren't going out and spending $300
Right.
on other people's Christmas presents, unless
That's
it's
right.
like a really special Christmas present or something like,
Right. It's
you
not.
know,
It's definitely not the average.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
and
I mean, when it comes down to it, we don't necessarily think about it like this because, it sounds kind of weird, but what we sell is essentially luxury goods. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
yes, they're tools. I mean, everything that both of us make and most of the industry makes, honestly, are things that can be used, they can be used hard. I mean, I know for sure that both of our stuff can be used, plenty hard, and they're hard work tools. But in reality, most people are not buying these because they truly depend on a tool that they need a tool that's as good a quality as what we're producing. You know what I mean? It's a it's a luxury good, but there's nothing wrong with that either. Look,
no,
Mercedes are luxury goods.
yeah,
I don't see them having any trouble selling Mercedes, Land Rovers, like, you know what I mean? Rolexes,
no,
or you can tell time just as good, maybe better with a Timex, but Rolex doesn't have any trouble selling watches. Like,
yes, but on that same note, not a lot of people are getting Rolexes or Mercedes for Christmas.
exactly. 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 It's
That's
which That's what I'm saying. It puts that we're
yeah,
in that category, whether we, I know we want to think about our stuff being like hard use, either, taking out the some mercenary somewhere is using one to take out some bad guy or something, or it's on the farm doing hard work, and there's some dude fought off a grizzly bear or something like that. But when it comes down to it, it's more of a collecting thing for most of us, and they are technically luxury goods, and so
yeah,
it that just comes with the market. Like, that's just the way it is. It's
yeah,
every year. It's not just us. It's all of our dealers. Like I said, for except for their like maybe $100 and under price point, something like that. That's
yeah,
it's very, very common. It's just the way it is. So and then of course this year we're coming into the end of a year that's been probably the worst year of the knife market since I've been doing this, since like 2007, 2008, that I can remember.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
I obviously don't know, for that long as far as the market, but I know it's the worst one I've seen.
yeah,
But
and
yeah,
it's especially, and that's based on, obviously what we're doing now and the amount of knives that we're selling and stuff is way different than what I was doing, 10, 15 years ago. But still, you can see it uh, in the secondary and stuff. And what's killing me is like you're still seeing guys. on there like, man, I'm trying to sell this such and such knife, and it's just I can't sell it. It's, I've got the price lows. Like, guys, you got to read the room. Like, it's
Yeah.
like the market is not good right now. It's not because any particular brand is losing its losing its hotness. It's
Yeah.
not, the hype is not over. It's just that like people are paying $7 a carton for eggs and
Yeah.
crap like that. Like, it's, people do not have as much extra money. Again, we're selling luxury goods. Like, people have to prioritize. And when inflation gets as out of control and everything as it's been for the last year, or like, I mean, it's been going for a while, but it's kind of peaked this year.
Yeah.
So I think it's got way more to do with the economy at large than it does with our industry in particular, or any particular brand. So
Yeah. I mean, do you want to eat this week, or would you like another titanium frame lock?
right,
You know.
right. And again, it goes back to a lot of the guys, the true knife freaks out there, they might actually forego the eating and buy the knife, but they also have, most of them have families to that they have to take care of, and
Yeah.
so it's a choice of are my kids going to eat? Am I going to be able to buy new school clothes for my kids? That kind of stuff. That's what people have been having to deal with this year. So
Yeah.
it's just that, and all the unknown leading up to the election and stuff of what was going to happen. Like, everybody was, and on all levels, from what we do, up to automobiles to houses, everything else. Like, people have been skittish about spending money. So
Yeah. I
I,
mean,
I
sorry.
no,
I've
go ahead.
got friends in the automotive industry and that work at factories and stuff that build parts for automobiles, and they he said it's like one of the slowest years they've ever had, and they've cut down like a bunch of different models for a particular brand that they make cars for, and like
Yep.
it's
They've had to
it,
shift and change with the times, and
yeah,
yeah,
sort of,
that's, it's just one of it, which is, it's obviously we don't like to see it, but at the same time, like, we know that big picture, that's what it is. It's hurting everybody. It's nothing to freak out about. It just kind of bothers me to see some of the people, especially some of the people like on Facebook and stuff, on this, talking about the secondary market and this and that, and like then talking about the knives are sitting on dealer sites longer and stuff. Like, it does not mean that brand is not doing well, because when you start
yeah,
looking around, I mean, yes, there may be a few brands that have such limited availability that they're things will have to get really really bad before they're not selling. But
yeah,
anybody that's putting out hardly any kind of numbers and any kind of volume, like, stuff is sitting on the shelves longer than it has, honestly, since I've been doing this. And I'm not just talking about our stuff. I'm talking about all the other big names.
yeah,
Like it's just the nature of the beast, nature of the economy right now. So
yeah,
guys that are trying to unload some stuff on the secondary and all that, this is one of those times where you just have to be patient and hang on. I mean, it's just like when the stock market is down, you don't go and sell everything off. You have to be patient, and you sit on it and you wait. And when it goes back up, that's when you sell. So if you're playing this knife game and buying them and selling them and stuff kind of as an investment, then you got to look at it the same way. Warren Buffett's not selling everything off when the stock market's at an all-time low, I guarantee you.
yeah,
So that's when he's buying everything up, actually.
yeah,
So
absolutely, yeah. I
that's,
mean, and I don't necessarily buy and sell as much as I used to. Like when I first met you, I seemed like I had a new knife every week, but
yes, you did.
but now I don't buy it unless I know I'm gonna keep it or I'm okay keeping it. There's a
Right.
few that I don't carry anymore, and I'd like to sell them, but I ain't gonna sell them, for half the price of what I paid for them right now. I'd
Yeah,
rather just keep it and
that's
carry
right.
it, and, every so
That's
often,
right.
whatever. But like
And if you need
otherwise,
to, I get the whole, you buy a knife, you keep it for a while, and then you find something you want a little more, so you unload that knife to free up money for the next knife. But
yeah,
fact of the matter is, like, right now, you can't do that. You can, but you're probably going to take a loss on the knife that you bought. I mean,
yeah,
there may be a few out there that you don't, but for the most, like I said, the ones that are just really really hard to come by and stuff like that. But anybody that, pretty much any company that's putting out any kind of volume, I think it's just we're not in that heyday right now where you can buy pretty much any knife from any major brand and know you're going to either get your money back or even make money on it whenever you
yeah.
decide to get rid of it. I mean,
That, and that was sort of where we were, like what I was saying when we first met. Like I would buy a knife for $180, keep it for a couple months, sell it for 150. And,
Yeah,
that was sort of just rent in my mind.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
paid
the
to,
$30 was well worth getting to carry the
yeah,
knife for 3 months. Yeah,
yeah. And then I would, buy another knife for 180 or 150 or whatever else. And, but at that time it worked. And now it
yep.
just doesn't work.
Well,
So,
and when you started getting up into the higher price points, I mean, guys were buying knives and literally making money off of them. You could
yeah,
get it, show it off on Instagram for a month or so, be the cool guy with a cool new knife, and then sell it and actually make money off of it. And
yeah.
I'm not knocking it. When
No,
it's like that, I love it. It's great for all of us.
yeah, no.
That's awesome. But
I was just
it's
never that guy. I never
yeah,
could swing
I
that.
mean, dude, I mean, there was when we first started. Well, maybe not the very first years, but there was a section of time there, like at pretty much any knife show that you went to, where you could go and virtually anybody that was in demand enough that they needed to have a lottery, you
Yeah,
could pretty much go get in any lottery there, and if you hit, you were almost guaranteed that you were going to make money on that knife if you wanted to turn around and sell it, and
yeah,
that's what tons of people did. So then we kind of got to the point where everybody was doing lotteries, whether it was kind of a marketing thing and people were doing them, whether there was actually that much demand or not. But that's
that's
another topic.
yeah. I mean,
So
well, to kind of touch on that, I mean, like I do lotteries now, but like main reason I do lotteries at like shows and stuff is just so more people can see the knives as
yeah,
opposed to the
well,
second
that's
guy
the thing.
comes
Yeah, I
by.
mean, if the knives are going to sell quick enough that you're not, I mean, you're at a show, you're the big part of being there is to get a lot of people in contact with your knives. It's not
Yeah,
just to sell knives, you know what I mean? Like I mean,
yeah,
in the long run, it's to sell knives, but those particular knives that you're on your table are kind of your showcase.
yeah,
And if you're blessed enough that they're going to sell within the first couple of hours or even the first day, honestly, like, I mean, there's going to be people there the second day
yeah,
that you don't want them to get there and see an empty table or just see the couple that you got left or whatever. Like, you want people to be able to see your best work. So
yeah,
yeah, doing lotteries is a way to ensure that you can do that. So it's got its place for sure.
mhm,
But yeah, it used to be, I mean, almost a guaranteed to make money off of stuff. Like I said, the people that at one point that were doing lotteries were all, like I said, they were popular enough that virtually anything you got in a lottery, I mean, there would people be literally standing there as soon as you turn around with a knife trying to hand you, you know, sometimes double. Like some of the really still like Hinder,
yeah,
Emerson, Strider, like the big guys, like yeah, like you could hit one of their knives at especially the handmade stuff. Like if you go to a
yeah,
lottery like the USN lottery or somewhere, oh man, yeah, you could easily you know hit a lottery, go up there, pay table price for it, turn around, and within 5 minutes double your money, if not
mhm.
more in some cases. It was
I mean,
insane in a good
that's
way.
awesome,
But
but yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
But we're not there now, folks. That
nope,
is not what the market's like. Again, there's still, I mean, Hinder or Cranks Out or Emerson, they do a handmade knife. Yeah, they're probably gonna just, you're probably okay on that as an
yeah,
investment. But the typical stuff that just our normal buying and selling it is definitely not in that place that it used to be just a couple of years ago. So but I think it's coming back. I do think that will get back probably pretty quickly, especially if the economy starts to turn around like I'm hoping it is going to this coming year. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. All right. So we mentioned last time that if we started getting some questions, we want to do a question and answer section. And we did manage to get a couple of questions. So I'm going to toss that over to you, let you go over the questions. We'll talk about them for a little bit. And then we're probably getting close to wrapping up by the time we get done with that. So
yep.
what do we have for
So,
questions?
first question is, are you going to upload to Apple Podcast or iTunes? I don't remember exactly what it said. That's from Sam Didio on Instagram. And
Sam.
short answer, yes. We've got to figure out how first, but yes, we definitely plan to. That first episode, we didn't really know what we're doing, and I'm not going to
We
claim
were
we knew
just
what
happy
we're
that
doing.
we actually got something like posted that people could see. Like, yeah, that was
Yeah,
a major victory. So,
yeah, but I plan to try to figure that out and get it posted to Apple, and that way it'll be more accessible to all different podcast platforms outside of Spotify and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, definitely plan on doing that.
yep, that
Doing
we
that.
for sure going to do that. And guys, obviously you may not want to like stare at our mugs, but I highly recommend doing the YouTube as we go along. We're probably going to be doing some stuff where we're going to try to keep it audio friendly as far as not having too many visual references, but we are for sure going to be doing some stuff where we're going to be showing some knives and stuff like that as we go along for the YouTube side of things. So if you don't really care one way or the other, I would recommend probably watching it on YouTube if possible. That's probably going to be your best place to be able to get the full effect of everything. So, all right, we had one more question.
Yes, we did. And this was from Michael.138 on Instagram, or maybe Mikkel. Sorry. There's a comment on your post. It said, first episode was really good. It sounded like you had been doing it for years. We kind of have been, just not being recorded. But
I've been running my mouth a long time.
He said, keep it up. I'm looking forward to you having a knife podcast in my lineup. So the question is, what is your favorite knife/design of all time? I'm going to let you have that one first.
Oh, yeah. Put me on the spot first here. So that's a really hard question, actually. That's like, it's kind of like I was talking about with the steels. It's almost like there's different categories, or like different, for the steels, there's a great steel for different uses for knives. It's almost like, I really like some of the really nice, like classical stuff. And I like some of the more, like pure tactical stuff. But probably one of the ones that had a bigger impact on me that I've never owned one. So I've still got to rectify that at some point, but probably the Tom Brown tracker. That's maybe a little bit of a cheesy answer, because I know it's, it turned into a movie knife and the whole works, but like, it was a good movie. So there's that. So
You
yeah,
introduced me to that
that's,
movie.
huh?
I said you introduced me to that movie. I didn't even know it
Oh,
existed
oh
before I met
yeah,
you.
If you even remotely like knives, you've got to watch that. So the Hunted. So yeah, the tracker, that was, so when I wish I could remember the guy's name. When I first got on the forums, when I was first starting all this, I was doing a lot of Hamones and stuff. Doing Hamones really intrigued me, and I apologize, I cannot remember the guy's name, but there was a guy that was doing, and he had permission from Tom Brown to use the design. He was doing trackers with Hamones on them, and they were badass. Like, they were awesome.
Was it Dave Wenger by chance?
No, I don't
Okay.
think. No, it's somebody that he may have been doing it too, but I'm pretty
Well,
sure that's not the person. Is
he
he still
makes a
doing
bunch
them?
of tracker, variants and stuff, and
Does he do them
I've
with Hamones or Hammonds
no,
or whatever?
but I think he's done some
Yeah.
in 1095. I haven't seen one with Hamon, but yeah, sorry.
This guy, he may have done other versions of it, but this guy, that was kind of his thing. It was specific, and he, to my knowledge, again, I don't want to like discredit him or anything, but I don't remember, like, he was one of those guys that was on there and was, some of his work was kind of popular when I first got on the forum, but then like it seemed to kind of disappear, or at least went off my radar. He
Yeah,
may be famous as crap in whatever circle, but I don't remember. I wish I remembered his name. No disrespect to him, whoever it was, but his knives were awesome. They were really cool. So just that kind of combination of those knives being just such an iconic look to them, and then having the Hamones on them too, that just really kind of did it for me. So that, if I had to pick one, that would probably be it.
that makes a lot of sense for me knowing you, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, it too, it's like it's got a really mean, kind of aggressive look to it. It's tactical looking, but then it's also, kind of got some bushcraft stuff going on. I mean, it's really,
It,
it's
it's
just
a tactical woods ninja, which I think you fancy yourself as.
maybe at one point. Nah, might be getting a little old for all that now, but
Okay.
yeah, wishful thinking. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I would, that, if I had to pick one, I think that's probably the one I would pick. So, all right, your turn. Spotlight on you.
All right. So I saw this question, 4 or 5 days ago, and I've been thinking about it since. And the one that stands out in my mind above all others would be the Todd Begg Bodega.
Hmm.
And I don't know, something about the fact that it's not that futuristic of a design. It's a fairly simple design as far as the lines. It looks sort of classic, but it's also futuristic. And
Yeah.
I liked that. I liked that combination of sort of, styles with it. Like the lines themselves aren't that complicated, but he adds features like the fuller with the holes in it, and the
Right.
milling and all the other stuff that kind of makes it, you know, little more than the sum of its, just lines, I guess.
Yeah, spices it up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And this is, one that I don't even think I've ever handled one now that I'm thinking about it. But, it's just a beautiful knife. It's got a really cool profile. It's got the harpoon. It's got, choil in the front and all that. And, Todd Begg's execution as far as his, uh, I lost all my brain thoughts. I don't
His
know what happened.
technical abilities are
Yeah, those.
not lacking at all.
No,
he's
definitely not. Yeah,
he is a
the
he is
finish. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely all that. So yeah, that would probably have to be my answer. Like Jonathan
That's a
said,
good one.
there's so many. Just there's so many designers, and I respect them for different reasons and different
Yep.
makers, different companies, and all that. And like it's very hard to narrow it down to one. But I feel like Todd Begg is a he's world class knife maker, and that's a really solid design. So I mean, I feel pretty good about picking that one. So
Yeah, oh yeah, you cannot go wrong with that. Yeah, Todd's absolutely fantastic work, fantastic eye for design. Like like you
yeah,
said, it's kind of got it all. And like you said, it's it's got that little bit of a futuristic kind of look to it, but like not to the point of overkill. Like it's done very cleanly and classy, and
yeah,
not like you know not futuristic. Like this looks like it fell off an alien spacecraft kind of thing, but like
yeah.
looks
And
like
there's some
some
of those knives
future
that I
more.
like too.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
there's
yeah. Not necessarily knocking those, but
yeah,
yeah, it gives it a
it's
different look, though.
yeah,
This one looks like some superior craftsman being from the future.
yeah,
Came up with the design and executed it is what it looks like. So,
yeah.
which may be the case. Todd may be a time traveler or something. So,
He might be,
but
but yeah.
yeah, that's a good choice. That's a solid choice. I like that a lot.
There any
So,
other knives that you can kind of just that have like influenced you, or you want to talk about for a
yeah,
minute?
there are. I mean, obviously there are. There's some we may save to get into for some other topics down the road, but one that I can think of, one not necessarily one knife, but one specific designer, and I mentioned them last time as far as me getting into making knives. Period is the Strider knives. Um, on the folders, if you look close, obviously I don't think that did a I think I did a decent job of not getting too close to anything to be like paid a little homage without getting too close to anything. I feel like with the Mac 2 design, it's in my eye at least, it's got some Strider-ish features as far as just the overall, as far as the blade, gets kind of skinnier around the pivot area, a bigger butt, so it's
The butt
not,
definitely reminds me a little bit of it, and yeah, it does kind of have that center taper like
yeah,
Striders have, and
it's not as drastic as theirs is. Theirs is
no,
even
yeah,
more drastic, and like I said, I definitely tried to not get anywhere close. Like, not wasn't trying to mimic a design, but more just kind of a little bit of design theory, from
yeah,
that general. So
yeah,
yeah, that one I would say. So like the basically all of the Strider folders for the most part have that same. I mean, they have some different looks, but they all have some similar features with some of that stuff. So similar lines. So pretty much all of them, like the SNG and the SMF, those are the PT. They're all, well, some of them are just basically bigger versions of others, but they all have
yeah,
those similar lines where it's a big kind of aggressive looking blade, and then what I'd think of as like a skinny waist, which will be around the pivot, and then gets flares back out and gets bigger towards the butt. So
so you
it's
like a skinny waist and a big butt. So.
wait, this isn't a rap song. Hold up. Uh, so
All
we
right,
might could turn it into one. But yep,
we
that's
probably
hey,
should.
hey, classic lines are classic lines. That's all I'm gonna say.
This is
So
true. This is true.
you
Yeah, I
know,
think. Yeah, I think you carried a Protect Strider PT like
yep.
until you made the prototype Mac 2.
I think I took it out of my pocket to start carrying that, so I could obviously wanted to test it out and see if I liked the design and all that stuff. So yeah, that was, and that PT being the size it was, and me having carried it for, I don't remember how long I carried it, months at least. It was
Mhm.
that I think that was kind of what was in my head when I designed the first Mac 2, which was a 3-inch blade,
Yeah.
basically the same size knife. So because I was really enjoying carrying that PT at the time, and so
Yeah.
that that size knife really appealed to me, and so that's where we started. And then didn't take long, and the people wanted bigger, and so
Oh yeah.
after a little kicking
First
and
drop.
screaming on my part, yeah,
First drop.
yeah, and I
We
was,
put out 28 knives and we had just worked ourselves to death about it. And they're like, "Could you make it bigger?" And I'm like,
but we love them like this is perfect to us, yeah.
"No, it's
So I
already
had,
made."
yep, I had to get over being butthurt and thinking that just because I thought that was the ideal, size and everything else, that did not mean that everybody else agreed. So, and
Yeah.
if you're going back to the whole business side of things, if you want to stay in business making things, then you need to make things that people want to buy. So,
Yeah.
we did end up making the switch, and now I don't really have any problem with it's not that it's easy to necessarily just go and scale it up or scale it down. It's a whole it's a whole thing, but
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt
I
my
think
feelings if people want it anymore.
I think that's one thing that there's a misconception on is you can just scale it up, scale it down, and everything stays the same and nothing,
Yeah,
has to really change. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I think is out there for people who don't make knives
yeah,
and don't design knives. Because I mean, your pivot stays the same, your bearing stays the same, the 256 screws stay the same, like all that stays the same. And then sometimes when you make it bigger, of course that means you have more room, but doesn't necessarily always translate visually just because it's sometimes you blow
right,
something up to where the blade is a half inch longer, but now the handle is 2 inches wide or something like that.
right.
It gets
That's right.
weird. So
Yeah, yeah. Just scaling it, at a at the same ratio all the way around doesn't necessarily always work. And then when
yeah,
you start having to make changes to not keep everything a 1-to-1 ratio, then it really gets tricky because when you change one thing, it usually means you end up having to change 4 more to
yep,
make everything work right. So,
it's a
yeah,
Hydra for sure. You cut off
yeah,
one head and three more appear.
yeah,
So
and that's just to make the design work right. And we're not even talking about like what we're doing with on the manufacturing side of things, to where, you know, you're not just going out there and taking a pattern and laying it out on a piece of steel and cutting out some parts that are a little bit bigger. Like you're talking about, creating whole new pallets, whole new systems and processes and everything around.
yeah,
Systems and processes are similar, but you got to make new work holding. You got to figure out all the stuff as far as the tool paths and stuff. Like it's just, there's a lot more to it than just hit the button and make it bigger.
it's probably something we should have talked about in the beginning, but I'm going to say it now anyway.
That's
But
cool.
like we maybe it's a little late in this episode to say it, but next time we probably need to preface the fact that like you are more of a knife company and I'm more of a knife maker at this stage. Like, of how
Yeah,
I do things, my particular
yeah,
process is not the same as you. I have no thought
right,
of work holding whatsoever when I design stuff at this current
right.
moment. So,
Right.
but
Yeah, that's for sure something we can dive into and actually talk about some of the, in a future episode, we can talk about some of the differences in, because I've been there too,
yeah, I mean,
that's,
I know
but
both
so
sides of it. So,
yeah,
like,
that's something we can for sure talk about and just give people an idea. So they're, the people that don't know anything about knife making really, give them an idea of what it is. And then maybe other people that are, knife makers out there, let them kind of maybe have only experienced one side of it or the other, they can get a little perspective from a different viewpoint there.
yeah, I'm starting to
So,
feel like the weirdo that doesn't have a CNC like everybody else seems to have them now. And I'm like,
there's still, I know it seems like it, but there's still plenty of people out there doing it without them. So
yeah,
it's definitely way more prominent now than it was. But
yeah.
and there's something to be said for still doing it that way too. There's nothing, and that doesn't mean that you won't be in, you know, a year from now or 6 months
Yeah,
from now or however long. But
who knows?
it's just kind of a different animal too. Like it's a
Oh yeah,
whole another skill set. Like I said, that's at least a whole episode right there. Probably a
yeah,
few episodes of talking about all that.
yeah.
So let's kind of work towards wrapping it up with kind of what we've got going on in the shop since we talked last week. You got anything different or new going on?
Working on a batch of I make a design called the Moraine S. It's a little neck knife, 2-inch blade, Warncliffe sheep's foot type blade. Working on a batch of those for River's Edge Cutlery. I just sent some stuff to Knife Joy, but other than that, I'm planning on getting those 10 or so knives finished, and then working on cleaning up my shop and getting that surface grinder up and running for the end of the year, and possibly
Yep.
doing some parts prep. I've been prepping parts for my Texas builds and stuff like that, just kind of cutting
Good.
stuff out, getting it flat, drilling holes, and not getting full on into it, but
Right.
just kind of getting stuff ready.
Getting a head start. That's always a good thing.
Yeah, I remember that's what we used to do a lot. And back to the December conversation, once it got to December, you would have me going around, cutting stuff out for you for customs and, all sorts of stuff like that instead of doing normal stuff, I guess.
Yep. Took that time when things slowed down a little bit to prep and get ready for the floodgates to open back up. So cool.
What about you?
We have had, I think I touched on it a little bit last time. We're kind of in a little bit of a bind, to be honest with you, because we ran into the same problem we keep running into about we're having to wait on blades to get ground at the CNC grinder. And so we're still waiting on that. In the meantime, I've been running Tantos and running the bevels on the machines, but we can't run them at a fast enough pace on the machines doing that to really keep up with the numbers that we would like to be putting out. So we have not been able to put out as many, but we have been making quite a few Tantos, which we had not made in a while. So it's it's kind of a trade-off. So it's cool. And we're making them in some of the new configurations that we'd never done before, like the swerves and stuff. So we get some new Tanto variations out there. We also we got several fixed blades done this past week of the Ridge Runners. Another thing that slowed us down, the last 2 orders I made when we use I'll talk more about this in detail in another episode, but when we mill the blades on the machine, we go through end mills so for every pallet of blades, basically every blade uses, for every blade, it's the equivalent of one end mill for every blade, if you count both, like all the bevels on the blade, both main bevels and swedges and all that. So when we do a pallet with 12 blades on it, that means we're using essentially, for both sides, we end up using basically 12 end mills. And so we go through end mills quick, and they're not cheap, but that's a topic for another day. But we've been able to kind of stay in a rhythm and kind of know when to reorder them and get them. But the last 2 orders that we've made, they're behind on their production or something, because we've gotten partial orders from them the last 2 times, and instead of getting our full order of end mills. So then we've had to wait for the second half to come in. So we've had a little bit of a lag on that too. So now that has never happened before. Now that we know that's happened, we can kind of plan for it, and we'll order them farther ahead so we can keep them in stock better. But that had never happened before. So that was kind of a new one to us, but everybody gets behind sometimes. So so we're basically running Tantos. We should have a new batch of drop point blades in here within the next, about before the end of the year. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks. They were going to try to run some for us, I think, on a weekend. I hope that they were able to do that and get us a partial batch done so we can get going on those. And then the only other thing really is with those, not having those end mills has kept us from being able to, let me back up. Surface grinder went down too. So we had some sort of a wiring issue on the surface grinder. It's really not the actual surface grinder. It's just the wiring that runs the coolant pump. So we kind of found a workaround with the coolant pump, and we're actually using a sump pump out of a 55-gallon drum to circulate coolant and run coolant through it. So we're back to grinding now, and because it's been a long process to get the information we need about the parts and that kind of stuff. So we're back to grinding blades. Once we get some more blades ground to run Tantos, and I've got more blanks for the 2 new fixed blade models that we did a month or so ago. The Range Agent and the Stalker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember the other.
Couldn't remember. Blanked on the names for a minute there. So, the Ringed Agent and the Stalker. I've got blanks in-house for those. They're actually the first ones we just did down and dirty batch with the A2 steel, but this batch is going to be out of S90V. So we just got to get them surface ground, then we're going to put them on the machine and mill the bevels on the machine. So I'm hoping before the end of the year, we may not have them done before the end of the year, but I'm hoping to at least be getting the bevels ready and all that and get them sent off to heat treat before the end of the year. So
Sweet.
that'll mean first of the year new drop of the new fixed blades, and really the first drop that's not kind of a prototype drop with a higher end steel. So
Yeah.
yep,
I
that
just
pretty
ordered my
much covers
first.
where we're at.
I just ordered S90B for the first time the other day.
Yeah,
Somehow never used it. I don't know. Just
I guess this is our first time too. We have a very small batch of Tanto blades out at heat treat right now that are S90V as well.
yeah.
So that'll be a first. So I'm excited to see how those go over. Not everybody loves MagnaCut, so
Yeah.
the ones that maybe that's been holding them back of wanting one of our Mac 2s, but they don't like MagnaCut. This will kill their excuses. So.
Yeah. I know one for sure right off the top of my head. I'm not going to mention
Yeah,
his name, but
probably the same one I'm thinking about. So
yeah.
yeah, yep. So we'll see how that goes. I'll go ahead and tell you it's definitely not machining any cleaner than MagnaCut does. Maybe a little bit worse, but
Joy.
we'll see. Yeah, it's somewhere around the same as far as the machining side of it. We'll see when it gets to the finishing stages.
Yeah.
So
Which to
yeah,
me, yeah.
yep.
Well, yeah. Never mind. I was about to get into a thing, but we need to wrap it up. So
Yeah, we could turn this into a 2-hour deal here. All right, guys. So we're really enjoying this so far. Please give us some feedback and let us know what we can do that will make things better. Please hit us up with questions, and please, like I said, just give us feedback. Please give us a follow, a subscribe on YouTube, and just help us try to grow this thing. We're enjoying it, and we're going to try to provide some value along the way and give you guys some behind the scenes. So we do now have an official email for the show. So if you want to email questions in, Chase, will you hit them with that email?
the email is knifefreakshow, all one word, at gmail.com.
All right. There you go. So, or you can always just drop comments in our Instagram or on the YouTube, on the comment section on the YouTube video. So we're probably eventually going to set up an Instagram account specifically just for the show, but at the moment, like until it gets bigger, I don't that's just too much to keep up with. So we'll keep promoting it from our two. Go ahead and hit them again with your Instagram and your website address.
Yes. My Instagram is at Boatright Blade Works. It's where I do most of my stuff. And then my website is boatrightbladeworks.bigcartel.com.
Cool. All right. And we are just McNeeskKnives.com, and we are McNees Knives on Instagram, and we have McNees Knives on Facebook, but pretty much McNees Knives everywhere. So check us out. We appreciate it, guys. Please give us some feedback and hit those likes and subscribes, and we will see you next week. Knife freaks.
Keep that knife freak flag flying.
Yeah, we got to work on the outro. We hadn't got a good outro yet.